If you don't know,
that's what's so surprising. All the time I've been rhyming, you motherfuckers still like.
if you don't know,
Nigga, let me tell you something straight up. Yo. If you don't know me, you never know me by now. I say
My earliest memory of hip hop in Boston is I was at a house party in Mattapan with my cousin, and MC Fantasy was there, and he was nobody at that time, but he was rapping. I remember he had a green Celtic starter coat on, and I was just fascinated by that, man. I was a young teen, and he was just rocking the spot, man, just off turntables, you know what I mean, and just rocking on, just rocking and rocking. I mean, like basically putting on a show, and I was just mesmerized by it, and you know what I mean, and that made me kind of want to get involved, and then just, the story continues. But that just for that first question, that's my earliest memory, and Wiz can tell you.
My earliest memory was dudes. I don't know if dudes was lying or not with the tapes, with the New York tapes, like New York radio station tapes. I don't know if niggas actually was going to New York getting those tapes, so their cousin was recording.
I used to record them in Connecticut.
That's what I'm saying. So when you had that tape and some of that music, man, some of the first swears I heard, some of that first shit was incredible for us. Those tapes were like, I don't know how to say it.
And what he's talking about is like Red Alert and Chuck Chill Out.
Yeah, when you had those first
and Mr. Magic and all that.
So when you had those first tapes, that was probably my first introduction to rap itself. The artists that came about, everybody started, then hip-hop wanted to be something, and I would say, well, rap, hip-hop wanted to be something in Boston. So there's tons of artists going back to 20-something years. Maybe, I don't know, I can't say 30 years I've probably been doing it. Because at 13, 14, I was touring. In Canada, Mishi Me and MC Light and all that shit. So I would say that, if I go back that far, I really can't remember a lot of names of the cats that I grew up working with in Boston. Not to be disrespectful, but it was so many dudes that we was just around. I mean, I was around, so I mean, it was good. But my first experience would have been the mixtapes, man. Just definitely, if you can call them mixtapes. But you had to connect in.
They would take,
you had to connect. That used to be what it was. If you had a tape from New York City, you had real hip hop. So hip hop definitely was something that would have been like Boston was gonna copy it.
I was from Connecticut, but I was from the Connecticut. When you say you're from Connecticut, you're from two different sides. You're from Hartford, that in the Springfield line, or you're from the New York line, and my peoples was from the New Haven, New York line. So at the radio, I used to get the New York radio stations, and we had double cassette decks, and we used to just record, and that's how it started. And then when I came to Boston and moved up here, my cousin who was from Texas, who his name is Top. He has a podcast show called Soup Kitchen Exclusives. Him and DJ Premier started together at Prairie View in Texas, but at that time Premier wasn't Premier. He was Waxmaster C, and that was another. Really, my cousin was the one who introduced. Like I had already heard it, but he's the one that was like, "Yo, we could do this." And then we used to sit in this crib, and he had a Casio keyboard about this big, and we had a double cassette, maybe linked to another double cassette, and we had a turntable, straight arm turntable, and our parents' records. And that's how it started, man. And then we just started creating, and and then there's more to the story. I'll go into when you get to your night. I'll go into like how I met him, and so forth. But we was dibbling and dabbling, and he was more. Juan was more. Should I just go into it now? All right. How I met. I don't actually remember exactly how I met you. Do you remember how we met?
I was rehearsing.
At the club?
At the gallery.
All right. So Juan had this crew, and I'll let you tell it. But just from as far as me meeting him, from my perspective, he was in this crew called Juice of Soul, and they had a fucking incredible album. You know what I'm saying? And me and Juan, we just clicked immediately. And I was like, he's like 2 years younger than me or something like that. But at that time, we just clicked, and I was like, damn, it's like
we freestyle
we used to freestyle like crazy. We used to freestyle like crazy, and he was already, at the stage of making the demo tapes and getting a deal and so forth, and they already like had their deal. You know what I mean?
It was on Atlantic.
Yeah, they wanted Atlantic Records, and the thing was, they had this crazy. What was the name of that first album?
Body Armor.
And the album was bananas. The concepts were bananas, and I learned. A lot of people don't know this because I've never said this before. Because honestly, this is the first time that in a long time that anybody has interviewed both of us about post creators, about where we came from and what's happened and so forth. But I learned a lot, if ever, you know what I mean. But which is why I want the footage of this when you said it. But I learned a lot. Like I was a crazy freestyler, but Juan was making songs. And so he was like, yo, let me get in that freestyle shit with you. And I was like, well, let me get in that song shit with you. And so he taught me a lot about making the song. In fact, he taught me. I have to say, Juan taught me how to make songs. He taught me, and he taught me how to write hooks. And then I just took it. I took off with it on my own. But he taught. I learned it from him.
And you know, with freestyle back then, there was dudes that they really wasn't freestyle. So with Jay, what I liked, and I can't say what I liked. It was just what he was. So fuck what I like. It's the way he was. When he was freestyling, it was really freestyling. Most of these cats were, you know, they writ something, they worked on it. It sounds like it's freestyle because it has some swears in it, but it really wasn't. No freestyle. Me and you used to challenge each other like, I know if you said this shit before. So it was one of those things to where it was awful for us. If you was around us and you even tried to get in a cipher, it would be, you'd be destroyed. Because it just wasn't no point in being around two people that were this confident. We had a vocabulary that allowed us to take shit that we just saw and put it right back into doing something.
So we rap about shit that was going on in the room
right there. So we catch your ass lying in a heartbeat. So most cats were there as a supporting cast to give us a break or come in. You know, there was some dudes that had it. D's, he had it. Flair could come in and get a couple of runs here and there. You know, so it was fun. But I mean, me and Jay definitely had that connection where it was like if you had to put two dudes together to battle someone, you would say, well, Juan and Jay need to battle them two dudes right there. We could pass it back.
And that used to happen.
Yeah, 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars, no matter what you gave us. If we had to just do 2, 4, 8 pass, whatever, we do it and eat your ass up. I can't imagine trying to use my brain that fast now. But the shit we were saying back then, we used to say it all the time. Y'all should have been recording that shit. You know, so I mean, so it was for that. I would say that was probably what you're talking about there. That moment of taking
that's where we met, and that's where we've
taken that
formed. Like that's where it started to form, and then we used to be like, yo, let's do a group. Because I had been in groups, but I had been in other groups, but everybody kind of like they either couldn't keep up or they quit. So it would leave me. So what happens when you're basically the best in around and no one's with you to challenge you? You start getting whack. You know what I'm saying? So because you start saying I'm the best, nobody challenges you. So me and him used to challenge each other. We used to talk about doing a group and how does Kreators. This leads to how the Kreators came together. The Kreators came together because G Squared used to be a DJ. He used to DJ for me, and he used to always want to play. And he used to be like, same thing, like, yo, your freestyles are crazy. He used to just cut and scratch and this and that. We used to rock parties. We rocked many a party, and then for years, and then he left and went to Canada for a couple of years. When he came back, he met me and Juan.
He got a Juno Award.
Yeah, he got a Juno Award up there, which is a Canadian Grammy for his own thing. So I mean, he was doing his thing also. He was producing and making things, and he came back, and then. He said he wanted to do this group thing, and I said, okay, well, I got my boy. I want to bring my boy, and he actually Juan actually created the Kreators name because we should throw this around with names and so forth. And then Jeff said, okay, well, I want to bring my boy, and he brought XL, and then that's how the Kreators formed, and we went. We had the.
I don't think we second guessed it at all when we started the Kreators in the sense of what we were actually doing. You know what I mean? We didn't really look at the racial component of the group. I really don't think it came into mind at that time. I mean, we were just looking at could we put together a cast, kind of like a draft. You know what I'm trying to say? Is this when you're drafting, you're looking at who are going to be there. Because a lot of motherfuckers say they're going to be in the studio. A lot of people say they got bars. After 16, they got nothing else. So Jeff was definitely one of those DJs, one of those producers at the time that is going to be by his word. So that you needed that. And you needed XL, who was always going to fucking say, XL, we need you right here. He was going to blast right through it. And with us being that kind of firebrand, where we could just spontaneously get all this street shit into making sense, I think it worked for the Kreators, especially in the beginning, because a lot of people were not expecting the 4 of us to have that kind of shit. And the point of the Kreators was because we wanted to be creative. We really didn't think that having no holds barred on how we wanted to portray hip-hop for Boston was going to come back to bite us in the ass a little bit. Because it did. And I believe that, it got us to the point to where we didn't really have an image that could be solidified enough. Like, well, what is their sound? Once we got to a level to where people wanted to be able to put us in a category, which at some point that happens with anybody's career, I guess, we really didn't have that. It was like 4 guys. We didn't really have a clothing line. We didn't really have a hairstyle. We didn't have all these tricks or gimmicks that most motherfuckers got now.
Yeah, we just had hot music.
Yeah, we just had hot fucking music, and we didn't care what we wore on stage, really. And it wasn't that we were bums. It was just, I look back at some of the pictures of shit we wore at shows. It was like, that's a FUBU shirt.
Yeah.
What the fuck was I doing with that sweaty ass FUBU shirt?
That was hot at the time.
I guess so.
Hot at the time.
So I mean, for us, you know, with Kreators was an incredible thing. 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah, we did a few albums and an EP, and we had a bunch of demos. And we did a lot of dope shit.
Boston appreciated.
But we just, you know, it just was at a time where we were young. You know, there was a lot of money that was flowing around, but wasn't flowing into our pockets, and there was a lot of there's a lot of animosity about who was getting paid or who wasn't getting paid, and who was making particular decisions and who wasn't. And there was also, we were all young and we were drinking a lot and we were doing a lot of drugs.
That comes at the end.
You know, that
comes at the end of everything. When you said everything and you've done everything, and the shows are the shows, and I think that at the end of the day, everybody, even when you're looking at a marriage that's about to dissolve, you can start picking up all the little shit that you never cared about before. Motherfuckers leaving clothes in the kitchen, or leaving clothes in the bathroom, leaving something on the floor, leaving the light on. Shit that never would aggravate you before is aggravating you now. Yeah. And in hip hop, every single story is always going to go out the same. It's always going to be at the end of a relationship in hip hop. It's always going to be, was there something janky with the money? Was there something janky with the career? Was one person working on something behind the scenes? Yeah. Unfortunately, as creative as we were trying to be, we weren't that creative in the breakup, because we could have got better with it. Yeah. It didn't have to end up like every other story with every other group. Yeah. 4 guys who were really good friends, working on some really good music with the best of intentions, you know, that barely speak. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day. That's the sad part about it. I don't think the ending was creative at all. Blame to go around for me and blame to go around for everybody. At some point, I just stopped doing shows. Yeah. You know what I mean? So at some point, I just stopped answering phone calls. I don't know how much of that was alcohol or drug related, or just how much of that was just, you know, depression. Just saying, you know what, fuck, I'm what, 30 years old now. Yeah. And we're 28, 29, and I'm still doing this shit.
Still ain't. We don't feel like you're.
I'd already been through it. I'd already been through it with Atlantic Records. You know, I was all that money, and that didn't really see all the money I said I was gonna see. So you get to the point where you start relying on what's in your cup more than what's in your mind, and I think a lot of that plays into everything. Any relationship. I don't care if it's music or business, or you got a skate park with some friends. Every single story where you see 2 guys that used to work together and they don't anymore, it always has the same thing. You know, it's going to be this and that. But, you know, we did do something that nobody had done. I don't think anybody's done it again. I don't think anybody will try it again, only because it might look at it and say, well, I don't know if it's 4 guys is really necessary anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't really need 4 guys anymore. So, I mean, I don't think anybody will ever do that again. You know, it's like boy band shit now. And, it was good.
It was good.
It was good then. It gave variety then, but now it's like I wouldn't have 4 dudes in a rap group now. 4 dudes came down here and they wanted to work on music. I would say y'all should be a clique.
Yeah, you guys do something and I'll engineer it.
Yeah. I wouldn't say, you know, we're gonna do 4 guys, like, you know, you got Migos and all that. That's some southern shit that's popping up now. You know, more than 1 or 2 guys, but whatever. I don't know about it now. But hey, it was a good run. I mean, he still got a career out of it. I still produce, you know what I mean? I still try to work with some of these kids that don't have the money for studio time. You do it.
Yeah.
A lot of the work we do is just searching for. You still looking for that ultimate line?
We do, yeah. We still involved in the music lot. I'm still recording and mixing records. I just had a kid that I'm advising, like, you know, legally, you know, not in a legal. From a legal perspective, like not that I'm a lawyer, but I know how we've had so many bullshit contracts and been in the game for so long. Like I can read a contract and know what it says.
Those contracts look good when we first saw them.
Yeah, so I got a kid now who's a young kid who's real nice, and he brought me his first contract. I tore it to shreds just by reading it. You don't need to take this to a lawyer. This is garbage. This doesn't say this. It doesn't say that. So we're still involved in music. He has a studio. I have a studio, and you know. I'm by far we're not done with it. You know what I mean?
You just came back from Japan.
Yeah, I just came back from Japan. I brought my daughter with me. Yeah. I was on tour and I had her selling merchandise, and you know we had a great time. So you know the ride isn't over. We still have a lot of things, and it's still going places. But you know it's from a Boston perspective. You know it was always tough, and it's going to be tough.
And especially for the lone wolf rapper now, which is kind of like that Boston thing. Yeah. You know I get it. You know, but if it was me to encourage anyone, I would just say, listen. You cannot, and maybe that's just me, But you cannot, go by what other cats are doing. I don't care how easy it is for you to write over something that you already heard.
Yeah.
Hotline Bling is fine, but some dude already wrote on it. So everything you say after that, dude, is like, come on, man. You don't have to remix Hotline Bling. That just means that you like what he did and you can't get your own like in there. Do your own bling, man. Just do something else because nobody's gonna recognize you ever, in my opinion. Ever if you can't rap, these dudes are doing trap beats now, so you gotta do trap. You from Boston, ain't no trap.
Yeah. Stop
up
it.
Here, so just stop that. If this is the way that Boston sounds, and we're always gonna be the nephew or the cousin of New York City, that kind of he came over for the cookout, but ain't nobody really trying to smoke the good weed with him. Then, if that's who we are as Boston MCs, you know what I mean? Fuck it, but I'm still looking for the ultimate line. I still have a song in my head, in my chest, that I just can't seem to find that sample yet. I just can't seem to find that chord. I just can't seem to find that hook. That's what's special about it. Even since the first time I heard those mixtapes from New York, I had my own ideas. So I definitely didn't want to sound like Slick Rick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
I still got an idea.
You still respected it.
Yeah, I'm still digging through crates. I'm still looking for that perfect sample. You know that one you hear and you go, that's fucking it.
Yeah.
We ain't got to do shit, put a snare on that.
Yeah.
That's still there. So, for these cats, I just hope that if they do the journey, because it'll probably end up fucked up with a fucked up deal with some friends that you might not see as much as you used to, at least know that you did it your way. At least know that you were your own self and you wasn't trying to rap like this nigga one week, that nigga the next week.
Yeah.
If this was the style, you doing pimp music one week, you sound like West Coast the next. So, at least you can say, you know what, I did it my way. So,
But the Creators had a great run, you know what I'm saying? And the Creators will always be that will always be a legendary, old school. And the story's not, who knows what the story, who knows what happens? Who knows, you know what I'm saying? And so it still manifests in different ways, with Juan doing his own thing, me doing my own thing. I don't know what XL's doing, I don't know if G Squared does hip hop anymore, but it's always going to be Creators in a certain way.
DJing,
I know he's DJing, I just don't know if he's
XL had some, he was doing some with Sean Price, I think, before God rest his soul, rest in peace, and that kind of thing. So everybody did, even with I don't think I did much. I think I just kind of took the sabbatical, man.
Yeah, but you started producing and writing and stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't want the stage anymore. For me, I've been doing it. I've been jumping around since I was 13, touring since I was 13, trying to break some kind of way out of this shit. And at some point, you get your wife, you get your kids, your family's like, yo, Dad, fuck. You know what I mean? I need a tax return. You need all these things that hip hop don't really provide.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but as a starving artist, that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? So it's fucked up, but sometimes you just gotta say, man, I gotta get this gig. I gotta get this job. A lot of us, that's what it ends up being. But at least know that, no matter what disagreements you had, nobody has to get hurt. Nobody has to get killed. Ain't no taking it to the streets. Every single relationship, when it breaks up, I don't care what it is, it gets bad. You know what I mean? People say things that they don't mean. We all do dumb shit. But in Boston, there shouldn't be no violence behind this shit anyways. All of us are trying to break in something that don't really want us involved in the first fucking place. It's the reason why Boston is what it is. Yeah. New York got its own shit. Florida got its own shit. Atlanta got its own shit. Midwest, Mid-South, they all got their own shit. And you know what? Boston's really not that nigga they break bread with. They ain't never gonna re us up, ever. So unless one of these lone wolves come out and do something, dramatic, not copying nobody, then you're never gonna see that breakout. And then even with your flow and your freestyle and everything that you can add to the table, you've seen that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
You've seen it. And you've been every fucking place somebody could think of. And you're still doing it, still grinding.
Yeah.
And that's just say the truth of the matter is that's the consequential rapper for Boston right there. That's what it is. All these years beefing and struggling and doing this mixtape, doing that, putting this album together, getting janky deals, but it's the best that I got right now. Yeah. That kind of shit, selling your own material. So when you look at it like that, if you're ready for that, then yeah. But thinking you're just gonna make I don't even know if these niggas know what mixtape means. Because it ain't no tape, you ain't recording it to a tape, it ain't mixed.
Yeah.
You're doing some shit on,
Yeah, it's different. It's totally different.
Yeah, show me a tape. It ain't really a mixtape, so I don't get this shit. But whatever, man. Not to put it or disparage anybody, but just do good shit. I think for Boston.
Yeah, do original shit.
Yeah, be creative.
But to sum it up. That's a quick sum up of what happened with the Creators.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
and
where the Creators is at right now. We're still all friends. We don't necessarily always talk, but we still everybody's still there, so it is what it is.
Everybody's still grown.
So. When we started to split up, it was like XL disappeared on his drinking sabbatical, drug, NA, AA, whatever he did. He just fucking disappeared completely. Juan just was like, yo, I'm working on my solo shit. And it left me with G Squared, and me and G Squared are very good friends. I love him to death, but we didn't necessarily work together well. You know what I'm saying? Because he, as talented as he was, and he's very talented, still is very talented, he wanted to do everything. And this is what led up to the problems, some of the problems in the Kreators. He wanted to make all the beats. He wanted to do all the cuts. He wanted to rap on every track. He wanted to do this. And we used to be like, well, you know what? We just was in New York, and Pete Rock says that he wants to give us some tracks. And we want to fuck with Pete Rock. And Premier was going to hook us up with an up-and-coming producer named Alchemist, who none of us knew. And you know, we want to get a beat from him. And it was like, no. It was like, whatever it was never necessarily like, no, you're not going to do it. It was always like, oh, well, we'll work on it, we'll figure it out, and da-da-da-da. And we always was sitting back like, well, when is it going to happen? And it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? We did eventually get a Pete Rock track, but it was always a problem. It was always an issue. And that left me. So what happened with him was he said, you know, like, the record, this last record, or whatever the last record was, live coverage at that time, I think it was like 60% done. And he was like, yo, you know, these dudes aren't going to do it, will you do it, or whatever. And I was working on my solo shit at that time, and I was like, well, nah, I don't really want to do it either. If it's not going to be Kreators, it's not all of us, I don't want to do it.
I forgot about that.
And then he was like, you know, I will pay you for these tracks, or what it was. And I had some solo tracks, which was like personals, and the live coverage joint was like solo shit that I was working on, and you know, I like Juan said, you know, I was hungry, and I needed the money, and I had a family, and my wife and my kids, and I just was like, you know, you're dangling money in my face, and I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do it. I need to get this money. And then I would do it, and things still wouldn't come out the way that I wanted them to come out, and that just made me even more mad, because now I'm giving you like my solo material, which is not, you know, this is shit I'm keeping for myself, but you're dangling money and incentives and shit in front of me to do it, and I'm giving you those joints, and then it's still not coming out the way I want it to come out, and it pissed me off, and that's what led to the split with G Squared. The true story of how the last part or whatever that was keeping the Kreators rolling, how the last couple wheels fell off, was he asked me to finish that record, and I said okay, but before this record is done, I know you're giving me this amount of money, or you're doing this with me or whatever, but I want to have input on how the cover is and how how the record looks, and because we would, a lot of the times we wouldn't have input, even when we were all working together and everything was cohesive. Juan and I would not have input on that, so it would always be somewhere, and it would always be a different way. So I was promised that it was gonna be a certain way, and I would have input on it, and I said.
Live coverage only had your tracks on it?
No. It was like 60% done of our tracks, and it had like
Kreators tracks on it.
It had like 13 Kreators tracks and like 4 of my own. Yeah. So
damn.
So anyway, so I got a call that yo, your record's in the store. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yo, your record's in the store. And what led up to that was I said to G Squared, I said, yo, Jeff, I said, listen, if you do to me with this record, this the same shit that's been happening when the Kreators were together, if you know what I'm saying, if you do this, I said, yo, I'm gonna make a diss track on you. And he was like, if you ever make it, this is verbatim, he said, if you ever make a diss track on me, I would never talk to you again. I said, okay. So I got a call, the record's in the store. I had no idea the record was going to be in the store. I go in the store, I see the record, I pull it off the shelf. I buy my own record that I didn't even know which is in the
girl on the cover.
It's the one with
It's the Pete Rock beat on there.
Yeah. So I buy the record and I open it up, and I'm like, this is I didn't get to choose the pictures, I didn't get to choose the layout, I didn't get to have, not just choose it, but I didn't get any input on it. And then I looked at my shout outs. And I didn't even get to write my shout-outs. The shout-outs were copied from a record before and put on there, and that shit sent me through the roof. And I went and I made that diss track called Snake Decapitation, and I played it, and I brought it to the record, and I brought it to the radio, and I debuted it. And they debuted it on the radio, and he was pissed at me. And and the song was very personal. What I said in it, you know what I'm saying? It was all directed towards him, and it was all true, and it was irrefutable that it was true. He knew because me and him grew up. That was his story. So that I did that, and that was the demise. That was it for the Kreators. Once I did that, he stopped talking. Said he would never talk to me again. He stopped talking to me, and then he moved. He tried to actually have me banned from the show. You know, and just to correct us if this interview ever gets out, like, Jeff, I'm not even mad anymore, you know what I'm saying? I love you, you're my man. So, you know, at some point we'll talk, but, you know, just for the record, the truth is the truth. You know, he was DJing the show after this record came out, and he told security not to let me in to the show. And he told me that if I come to the show that he'd have me thrown out personally. So, of course, I went right to the show, and I went right to the show, and I walked right by the security, and I was standing right next to him. And every time I would stand in one side, he would go to the other side of the room when he wasn't DJing. And then I would stand on this side, he would go to that side of the room. And my boy Shad was there, Castro was there, and I wanted to smash Jeff, and he was like, "Yo, you can't do that. That's your boy." Da da da. And I didn't. And that was it. That was the last of mine. So to answer the question in a long, drawn-out way, no, it wasn't hard for me to start doing the special teams thing. It was. I just wanted an outlet, and Edo was there, and Edo was a good friend of me and Juan's, and Edo was one of the main people that was like, "Yo, y'all are getting jerked." He was like, "Dude, come do this show. Come on tour. I'll show you, because it doesn't take X amount of dollars to record a record. Look how fast it was."
At that time, I already started losing my burn for it.
Yeah.
I had too many kids, too many bills, and I was already, you know, I was already spending so much time in the studio doing hooks, doing the things that get done before songs ever recorded.
Yeah.
So I really didn't. I lost the flair for it all. And as a writer, for myself as a writer, you know, I can always write something else. I didn't know I only saw the live coverage. You know, I see it on eBay here and there when somebody mentions it on. I never looked at the album. I didn't know how many tracks I had on the album. Was I even on the album?
Yeah.
I never looked at it, how many were sold, if anyone received any money from the album, or if there was.
If anyone did, it wasn't you.
It wasn't me. I mean, so.
You get it? Now you see what I'm saying?
I never had any input besides, you know, the studio time I put into making the album.
Right.
You know,
how many checks you get?
I've never received a check from anybody. I've never in my life received a check from anybody.
Never received a check for projects we were doing.
I've never received a check from R.I.P Media.
Me neither.
From ever.
Me neither.
We got money at different times, but I mean,
that's not to say there was
in the
money.
time that this records was being
no,
sold,
wait. I don't know what you mean, because again, I don't know if we got per diem when we went to Atlanta or something, but I don't know. No one's ever gave me any money.
Yeah.
So I've never received, and that's not to be mean or be mad about anything. I mean, we're just talking what we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really have to make up anything. The whole point is, no one can ever look at a piece of paper and say, you know, Julius Harold
got this check.
You know, I gave Julius Harold $500 for this track, $500 for that track, or $1,500 for this, or I gave him X amount of time he spent in the studio working on these hooks or working on this. Because a lot of the creative stuff was me and Jeff would sit there. Jeff would give me a ton of beats. I would go back, do a ton of different hooks. I would give him a ton of options of hooks. And then we'd figure out what we want. So when we got back in the studio, we had some game plan. So this is where a lot of things was. So Jay and XL, we can all bounce off those ideas, but we always had hooks. So it's kind of surprising even here now, you know, with the live coverage album containing songs that, you know, I participated in, but you know, in some levels to get that album finished. For them, there was a reason. There had to be a reason to finish that album. There had to be some type of money involved to finish it, incentive. Yeah. And then to pay him wasn't even more incentive. Yeah. And then to look at one of the, you know, the key contributors in that, you know, would be me and Jay. You know what I mean? We'd be 95% of what you're going to hear as far as vocally, unless I'm reduced on the album and he's, you know, he's given more time on the album. But at any other time, you're going to see me and him on every single song regardless, unless we choose a song for ourselves. That's usually how it goes. I mean, because you can't really peanut Jeff and XL together. So you know what I mean? So you could put me and Jay on anything, but you couldn't put them two on a track and have it actually be that track that you're gonna, you know.
Which is not to say that they didn't.
No, not to say that, but we had a way of sandwiching everybody together to get, you know, where there was one weakness, we had another thing to kind of So that's amazing. I mean, that's something that I wasn't aware of, you know, which is, you know, you learn something new every day.
I'll come show you.
Yeah, you know, no, it is. I take your word
But basically,
for it.
yeah, that's the, you know, there was a lot.
I take my own word. I
There
never
was a
saw
lot
a
of
check.
issues with how things went. But no, it wasn't hard for me to go to special
It
teams
shouldn't have been
because I was
you
upset.
had a great cast.
And I was going with veterans. You know what I'm saying? I was going with Edo and Slane. Slane wasn't even in the picture at that particular time. It was Crumb Snatcher. And what happened was Crumb got it was actually the last word was, this is how the story really goes.
Yeah.
The group was me, Juan, and Edo.
Oh, and
we
that
were the
started
last
the
word.
rumblings
And
for the
we
Kreators too.
We did a whole
Album.
project, and that project
yes.
that we were doing started to piss people off on the other side of the Kreators. Like, they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave. And you know what? We were gonna leave, basically. You know what I'm saying? We did the project, and you know, it was just Juan was really burnt out at that time, and he didn't really want to go any further with it. And me and Ed were just like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And we get Crumb.
Yeah.
We get Crumb to do it with us, and Crumb. Everything was. We did another. Now these are albums that you've never even heard. That you know what I'm saying. We do another project with Crumb, and fucking Crumb gets a deal at the end of the project being done, and like they basically try to just grab him and like monopolize his time, and his time was all fucked up. We were like, yo, we got deadlines, dude, we got to do this and do that, and he kind of was getting a little money waved in his face, and he was kind of, you know, wishy-washy about us getting together at certain times, and he could make it at this time and couldn't make it at that time and this and that, and me and Ed was just like, you know what, fuck it, and then we were actually not going to do any project, and then we bumped into Slane, who G Squared was producing some shit for, and we did a song with Slane. It was me, Slane, and Crumb, and the song was called Hardcore. It's me, Slane, and Crumb as a creator. So in fact, it wasn't for the Kreators, and G Squared produced it and convinced us to take it and use it, and he put it on a single and released it as the B-side of one of those singles. I don't remember which one it is, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. That's how the thing was going. It becomes a Kreator song. It was never a Kreator song, and I said to Ed, what happened was I brought Ed to the studio session with me. It was at Waltz Audio. And I brought Ed to the session with me, and I said, yo, come here, this kid Slane asked me to do a song with him. And I said, you know, come to the session, let's come see what you think, And he came, and we all rocked the spot. Actually, it was me, Slane, and Crumb. Well, Ed was not on the record, let me correct it, I'm sorry. It was me, Slane, and Crumb. And I brought Ed to the studio, and I said, you know, check this out and tell me what you think of this kid. And he was like, yo, I like him. And that's how the shit started. You know what I mean? We started that night. We was like, yo, you know, let's do a couple songs with us and let's figure it out. And that's how Special Teams was born. That's how it started.
And that was a good run. I mean, that to me was some good shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was good Boston shit in my mind.
Yeah.
You really couldn't pin it on nobody else. Y'all weren't trying to be like anybody else. Everybody's voice was banging. Everybody had their own talent. Yeah. That's good shit. You know, and they were still hungry.
Duck Down. And that's how we got to the Duck Down.
And that's Duck Down, which is a good place to be.
Which is Sean. You know, what happened was we went on tour with Sean P. and in Canada, and Sean was like, we did a couple shows with him, and he called Duck Down, and he was like, yo, these niggas are hot, and yada da da da. We needed to talk about it, and then, you know, Drew Ha and Buckshot contacted Edo, and they said they want to sign y'all, and that's how Special Teams was born.
That's good shit.
That's how it all comes down. So this is just for the people watching. This is two iconic albums, just so you know. The legendary album that broke the Kreators was No Contest. That album, hands down, has always been viewed as some of the best Boston hip hop ever, and that's when we were in our prime. And so, No Contest is a dope. It was on Bomb Hip Hop. That's a dope record. And then we did Live Coverage, which is another one. And then the Special Teams mixtape and the Stereotypes album on Duck Down.
So what the fuck was Nightlife?
Nightlife was the name of that Pete Rock song.
Okay.
Yeah. Nightlife was the name of that Pete Rock
song. That was a single too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So that's how we started. You know, this is what we're talking about. We're in New York getting tracks from Pete, and you know he wanted to give us more than what we got, and like we had to basically beg to get that. You know, and it just.
You know, and it's a funny thing about perseverance too, because you know, no matter what you face, especially the adversity for Jaysaun, I think it was a lot of adversity because a lot of times he had to make decisions that were contrary to what I think a lot of people thought he should make. You know, it was like, oh, well, if he makes this decision and somehow that's affecting, you know, friendships or affecting allegiances, But when you're looking at the money from that standpoint, and I always had money from other hustles.
Me too.
So I never really wanted to know, because I always knew. It's kind of like you don't go through your girl's phone. I just didn't want to know. You know what I mean? And a lot of stuff I just didn't want to know. And with Jado, at the end, I can see why he didn't want to know, but he had to pick up that phone one night and just look through it like, oh, wow. Wow. And that's why his memory is different than mine. Because he actually took the time to sit there and say, you know, this is my career, and I need to know what the fuck is really going on. I want to know what really was spent and what really was made and how that went about. And I think that that's only a natural human thing to do. So, I mean, a lot of people get mad at you. You know, like my office hours are from 9 to 5. You know, they say it all the time, man. If you ask somebody for some paperwork and they want to fight you over it,
this is a problem.
This is a problem.
Yeah.
Chances are you might have got juked. So, I mean, for me, you know, Jay was already the dog barking at it. He was already pit bull off the leash.
We used to consult each other. We would talk about what was going on with the group, and we would talk about what was going on with our careers. And he was be like, you know, Jay, fuck, don't say nothing, da da da. And I used to be like, fuck that, I am gonna say it. And then he used to be like, all right, well, you know what? If you're gonna say that, well, then this is what you need to say, and this is what's going on. And then I would get blamed for it because I was like, fuck that. But I'm looking at, but in the back of my mind, I'm looking at, and I'm in the room, and I'm looking at, yeah, that's what he was. You know, this is real. You're getting real shit now. 15 years later of what it was, and I would be looking at Juan, right, and I would be looking, and I would just be looking like, yo, am I saying what we talked about? And he would just, you know, he would just like tip his hat, or he would like let me know, like, yeah. But that way we both wouldn't be blamed as fucking as like going against the grain. It was always me.
Jay's personality is he's never gonna let anybody get over him, not on fucking nothing. Right. If he pays for $20 worth of gasoline and he pulls off from that pump and he sees the person only pumped 18, he's going back to that gas station. even if his plates are uninsured, unregistered, and all that shit, he's turning around. His sticker could be that shit. He gonna cause a scene. When the police come, he don't give a fuck. It's the $2 principle for him. So for me, I'd be like more like, fuck, I don't even want to make a scene, man. My plates, I'm uninsured, unregistered, I'm dirty. I got weed in the fucking ashtray. I got an open container. Nah, fucking, I'm gonna see this motherfucker again. I might be sneaky about it to where he would just go right at it. He couldn't wait to be sneaky. I'll come back later and maybe get homeboy. Maybe rob the whole fucking spot. Jay would just be right there. And that's his personality. And that's the way it works. But I mean, everybody can't do the same thing at the same time. You know, that's like a riot. You know, that helps nothing. And you know, it was what it was. With the Kreators, I don't know what the numbers would ever be. Maybe the numbers were nothing. Maybe it was all just a phantasm. And like most things in music, you can chalk it off as a loss. I spent $80,000 to do this record, and the record only made $20,000. Unfortunately, you know, that's the way it went with a lot of stuff. But you know, for me, I go back in time, and I don't say only thing I regret is you know, the friendships, man. Just having more of the friendship, more cookouts, more memories, because it doesn't have to be that. I mean, it's so sad that the story's always in the same way. You know, but for him, you know, for his career, he kept that pushing, and of course he would. You know what I mean? I think that it's commendable that he kept going and kept going and kept going no matter what, and he's still going. You know, for me, I knew that I was done with the stage as far as getting up there in front of people and doing that shit again, let me hear you say ho, and throwing water bottles and having towels in my hand. All that shit was enough for me, man. I'm still looking for that perfect thing. I still sit here and make music all the time. I can play about just about any instrument, but I'm always going to be Boston. I'm always going to make Boston type music. I'm always going to work with Boston artists first. And that's just the way it is. And one day I'll find a kid like me, a kid that could freestyle his ass off, that could rap his ass off, and want to really get the story out there. And if I do bump into that carbon copy of myself, I won't juke him. I definitely won't juke myself. So until I meet myself, you know, that's another chapter, you know. But until then, I mean, as far as he's concerned, he knows now to get it in writing and get it right in writing. You know, just don't having something on a piece of paper don't mean shit. You know what I mean? You can have all kind of shit stamped on a record. That don't mean you're ever gonna see a nickel. So I mean, you know, it's funny like that, but you know.
You gotta fucking pay attention, man.
Yeah, you do. You know, you do.
If you don't know.
Son.